Hello and welcome to the series of tutorials that I've decided to make. I'll take literally 30 seconds to introduce myself. My name is Alex. I'm a 3D/2D artist and animator with over 10 years of experience. Over the years I worked in game development, in post-production, in commercials, you name it. And over the years I mastered a lot of different software packages. And now I would like to share my knowledge with you. In these tutorials I will be talking about different tools and my own techniques which I use every day in my work. And hopefully you will enjoy it, and these tutorials will really be helpful for you. So let's start. Zbrush is an old application. It is about 15 years old, and it started like a 2D artist's tool, like Photoshop. It was supposed to be a drawing application. And it still possesses some 2.5D tools. 2.5D meaning that unlike Photoshop, where each pixel has only two properties. Right now I'm drawing something on the canvas, but these are not 3D objects. Even though they are intersecting and going through each other, these are not 3D objects. These are 2D objects, because unlike pixels in Photoshop, here each pixel has another property, which is Z depth. And that additional property basically it makes it possible to achieve these effects which you see on the screen right now. The appearance of objects going through one another. But today we are not going to be talking about the 2D properties of ZBrush. I press Ctrl N to clear my canvas. It is still called canvas, not viewport like in other applications like Maya or 3ds Max. It is called a canvas. And today we're gonna be talking about the 3D capabilities of ZBrush for the simple reason that today ZBrush is a full-fledged 3D application which is used all over the place. It is used obviously in computer games, in movies, etc. Even though some other applications which can do the job of high-res modeling also do exist, ZBrush is the industry standard. Because it is the fastest developing application out there. 3D objects inside ZBrush are called tools, and the reason for that is because, like I said, ZBrush started as a 2D application or 2.5D application, and a 3D was like a crunch. It was an additional something inside this 2D package. Today, of course, it is the main feature, but it is still called a tool. So, inside Tools palette, here on the screen I have my Tools palette on the right side of the screen. And I believe it is there by default, but you can absolutely change it. You can move these menus around pretty easily. And that would be a theme for another tutorial. Today let's just, I haven't changed the interface much basically. I just, you know, moved a few things around. And you can switch between different types of interface. As you can see, I'm pressing the buttons on the top right, in the top right corner of the screen. I'm pressing these buttons and different layouts come up. But my layout, it is a saved layout and I can restore it pretty easily. You see, I've lost it. I can restore it by going into Preferences and choosing Config and Store, not Store, Restore Custom UI, and here we go. It is back. I'll be working inside my custom UI, but you shouldn't be worried because, as I said, I haven't changed it much. Let's create a simple 3D object like a sphere. Inside a Tools palette, there are a lot of different menus. But we need the topmost, where all these buttons like load, save, import, export, they all refer to 3D objects. And here a big button named Tool will open a Tools menu. And these are all the default 3D objects. If you are familiar with other 3D applications, and I assume that you are, otherwise it would be really hard for you to follow, then you know what it is. These are 3D primitives. Like inside Maya or 3ds Max, there are also cylinders, spheres, boxes, etc. So I would choose a sphere, and I would draw it on canvas. I would draw it simply like you would do in any other 3D application, just by, if you are using a mouse, even though I strongly advise for a Wacom tablet, just left click and drag. Otherwise, just press a stylus and drag if you are using a tablet. But even though you've created this object, you cannot move it. You can do nothing with it until it becomes a 3D object. What do I mean by that? If I were to do the same again, you see I've created another sphere, but I cannot move around it. It is not a 3D object yet. I can create as many spheres as I can, but that will make no sense for me because they are all 2D, even though they are interacting and intersecting. As I said, they are intersecting only because of this additional property each pixel possesses, because of the Z depth. So what do I do if I want to make it a 3D object? First of all, I should clear the canvas of all these 2D junk. Next, I create a sphere, but instead of doing anything else on the canvas, I press T, or press this button at the top of the screen which says Edit Object. Now it is a 3D object, and I'm rotating it. You might not see it because it is a sphere. Let me delete a sphere and create something else like a cylinder. So you would believe me when I say that it is a 3D object. Here you go. I'm rotating it. I guess it is a good time to talk a little bit about navigation controls inside Zbrush. Again, they are not 100% intuitive at first, but once you get used to them, they become like your second nature. If you would press a left mouse button anywhere outside the model, you would be rotating that model. If you were to press Alt and then press the left mouse button, you would be moving, you would be panning the camera. Or if you would press an Alt and then a left mouse button, and then you would release an Alt. And that is a little peculiarity of Zbrush. Then you would be zooming. These are how the navigation control work inside Zbrush. Again, it is something you have to get used to. So, we've opened Zbrush, we created a 3D primitive, and now we're using these navigation controls. It is time to try to edit the object. Right now, if we try to do anything with the object, if we try to left mouse click the object, we will get this message. The message which will basically say that you cannot sculpt on this object until you will make it a polymesh 3D. Why so? Well, simply because right now this cylinder is not just a mesh, it is a parametric primitive, meaning that you can control the appearance of this object by changing certain numerical properties. You can go inside this tool menu. You can find at the very bottom an additional small menu called Initialize, where you can change different properties and see that the cylinder will also change. You can change the number of sides, the length, the width, and stuff like that. These are simple changes, but we want to make something a little bit more complicated. We want to sculpt something on the top of this cylinder. And how can we do that? As the program informed us previously, we can make it a Polymesh 3D. You have to go to the Tool menu, and at the very top there is a button, Make Polymesh 3D. You just press it and you get yourself a copy of this object, only this time there is no initialize menu at the bottom, but there is a bunch of other menus which are helpful for sculpting. Another thing, right now the object is displayed in red. This is called a red clay or wax, a madcap red wax, which is the default inside Zbrush, but most people don't like to use it because it is sometimes hard to really tell the shape watching an object with this material applied. So what I've done, I've changed it to a basic material, which is actually not default but way more basic than the red wax material. It has no color, it has no automatic cavity, which the wax material possesses, and you can sculpt. And as you have noticed that there is no automatic smooth shading applied inside Zbrush, unlike some other applications like Mudbox or 3D Code. And I actually like it because right off the bat you can tell how dense your model is. Right now, as you can see, the model is not very dense. And the topology is not perfect. As you can see, at the top of the cylinder there are a lot of triangles which kind of come together at one point. Makes it very, very hard to sculpt. So let's change a model. Let's go back to the sphere. Make Polymesh 3D, and we can sculpt on the top of the sphere. As we sculpt, we realize that first of all, the resolution of this object is not very high, and you can check resolution if you drag your cursor on top of this object's icon in the tool palette. PM3D Sphere 3D is the name of this object. I dragged the cursor and it says that the density is a little bit more than 8,000 polygons. Not very dense for a high-res model. What we can do is we can subdivide. Here is a very, very powerful tool inside Zbrush, is subdividing. Inside tool palette I find a geometry, I expand this menu and I press divide, or a shortcut Control D, and the object became a little bit more dense. And I should probably demonstrate you how this dividing works if you aren't familiar with it.